unity, this is interface language, how unity between the divine and the world is seen from above. And then there's how the divine unity is seen from below. So zeu dei hamitis, the real perspective, the real perception is das ayin, is the true deya is the way it's seen from above. So Yichud Allah is the true perspective. What is real and what is superimposed? What is real and what is null? So when we say yesh ma'ayin, we say this is real. This yesh came from ayin, from nothingness. Not that it's nothing, meaning for something we don't perceive. But from the perspective of the ayin, that's yesh, and we're the one that is like a superimposed garnished or something. Yeah, nothingness, or a superimposed.
What about a perceived entity versus a?
Perceived would be an illusion, and that's not what we're talking about. They're both real. Okay, and the bittul that this suggests is a real bittul, is a very true bittul. The kula kamei kalach chashiv, that it's all nothing, naught, compared to Him, God. Shekol zeh mitzad ha'atzmos.
Meaning from the perspective of it.
Yeah, this is how, from the perspective of atzmos. We're not necessarily talking atzmos. We're talking from above. Let's put it this way. Ha'ezeh b'chinas b'tzalmenu. That's what tzalmenu reflects. What does this mean? Didn't we say tzalmenu is kelim? But it means tzelem, because it's a tzura atzmis, its perspective on the identity of the container is that it's all bottled to elikus. Now, before we go on, let me just put it in context. Remember, we said before that what does air transmit? Air transmits bittul. We said also that the divine side of things. Keli communicates identity. The purpose of existence is that identity, individual identity and diverse identity, should recognize that it's all part of the divine, without being annihilated. That's the way of air and Keli. So air is essentially bringing the message that God is here. It's all from God. Keli is bringing the message that there's a structure that God created. It all works well. The structure listens to the air. The Keli listens to the air. The air listens to the Keli. You have a neshama beguf that are following seamlessly God's will. But He wants a guf. He wants a container. He doesn't just want air. Now, guf could wander away. The Keli can wander, but we're talking now in Atzilus, so the way it's meant to be. So they both have a purpose. Now, we said the container has an inner container, tzelem. Or the air is tzelem in the general sense of the word. What is the difference between tzelem and the mus? So tzelem is already an identity, but it's an identity that knows that it is its purpose. We spoke the neshama toya. It describes the light. It's not describing what it does, its function. It's describing what its purpose is. So it's still a container. It's clearly a body that's going to work, let's say, but it knows its purpose. So that's what tzelem. Tzelem, in other words, senses das al in the Yichud Allah that I'm nothing. I need God wants me here. So remember, doesn't mean there's no keli. Then the whole thing doesn't make sense. He's not talking about it's a keli, but the keli is completely subjugated to what its purpose is, and its purpose is to be a container to the energy, which in turn is a reflection of God, of the Etzem. That's what Salmenu senses. But now, what is Musenu? Remember, again, we're not talking about anybody that's going off the reservation. We're talking about within the structure, Eris and Kalim, the way it's supposed to be. Like we say, Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Avos, Hen and Merkava. They were a Merkava, as they were physical entities. They were a Merkava to Alakus. They were a chariot. So they were a container, but a container that was completely aligned. And they sensed that I'm only here as your container, which is a form of kula kamechla. What does the Musenu sense? We're also created not just in the Tzelem Elokim, but also the Mus. That's Yichud Tata. Yichud Tata shuzeh das hanevroim. That's our perspective, or our perception. She'ena deya amitis. This is not the true perception, the true perspective. It has truth in it, but it's not the ultimate. So he's not saying it's Deya Sheker. We're not talking about Sheker. It's just not the ultimate. It's not the whole picture. It's part of the picture. That's how I would define it here. Because it's still real. What is it? Bittul b'zeh, and here the bittul that this does, ubchins bitla hayesh lavad. It's not bittul mitzias. The first one senses that the whole existence is ayin compared to the yesh. The yesh is atzmus. God wants existence, but He wants an existence. Existence senses that God is yesh and we're ayin, and we're just doing what He wants us to do. Here, there's already perception we exist. However, we align ourselves to the purpose. But it's not like you're completely, simply a keli of atzilus that's completely just a container for an energy. You're also an entity. What does that mean? That's the level of kidmusenu. So here's an interesting way he's teaching Demus and Tzelem. That Tzelem is the mus of the bitl amiti. Make a snapshot of real bitl. Think of it like the wax. In other words, Tzelem gives you a picture of what real bitl is, that all you are is a container for the energy. Or something like Oishis HaMachshava. The Oishis in the deepest levels of abstract thought don't have any personality. They're only there to give form to a thought, to an idea. Once you sense nirgish, once you sense the containers, so now I'm an entity. Again, we're not talking here Chaz v'Shalom, anything that's outside of godliness. But now you're an entity. Your entity is aligned. This is only a demus. This is already an engraving of what real bittul is like. What I find interesting is he's actually using the mus of bittul. So it's not just an avoidic application. He's actually using dmusenu. It's a dmus of the bittul and selam of bittul. No, there's two ways to capture an image.
It's not bittul, it's a picture of bittul.
Right. But exactly. Like that woman that's rolling her carriage, and someone says, "What a beautiful baby." She says, "That's nothing. You should see the picture." We wish the pictures more like that. Like people in Madison Avenue, they say it's not important what happens; it's important what people perceive happened. Perception, right? So, look, all marketing imagery could be completely false. They give you an image, and that's what it is. Here, obviously, we're talking the other way around. It starts from the premise, and God wants an image, but the material world works the other way around. We start with image, and then we say maybe there's some substance.
He wants an album to remember us.
Wow.
That's good. That's good. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you ever hear a company that begins, what's the MS, and how we're going to package it? And they don't start like that. Yeah, the MS of their product, maybe. Yeah, but I mean, MS, they don't start with Ein Ed Movade. Now, how do we package Ein Ed Movade to make it palatable? It's Ein Cake Movade, Ein Coke Movade, Coca-Cola. Now, how do we make sure it's that every man, woman, and child is drinking it from day one? Anyway, going on. It's only a demus of the bit lamiti. Yes, so it's a picture of bit lamiti. That's important of visualization. Well, the fee mashal is barlei al perek reish tzadik, and according to what we explained earlier in the chapter 290, that's almeinu, that's the outer containers, and the inner container, yesh leimar, you could say, that the outer containers experience the lower unity. Like the level of malchus, which didn't really refer to, but I alluded to that maybe malchus is machshava sheba'asiyah, is the level of yichud tata as it's known. So just like malchus is the level of yichud tata, let's say, you could also say the outer containers is the level of yichud tata. And the inner containers, which is Sameinu, is the level of Yichudi Allah. So this is a Yesh Leimer.
Why is the Rabbi saying
Selim and Demus is Yichudi Allah, Yichudi Tatok is obviously not from the Rebbe Rashab. That says, because he said he started the Perek Yedua, in Yedua. But the Yesh Lemer is that based on our explanation that Solomon Mus is Primis Achtenza Kelim, so now we've been Mechadish here basically that Yichudi Lo Yichudi Tato is Primis Achtenza Kelim. He's going to explain, by Inyan Hu, and the Inyan of this is, Dini B'Sev Shabbein and Perik Chof Aleph, in Tanya chapter 20:21. In Tanya chapter 20:21, Mavayir in Yichudi Lo Al Derech Moshel Esis HaMachshava V'Adibur. He explains the Inyan of Yichudi Lo, the higher unity, for an example, with an example of the difference between letters of thought and letters of speech. As they are in the. Let's see. Both, yeah, the thought, the letters of thought, the letters of speech, as they are in the power of intellect.
That's Yichudi Lo.
Let me finish. We'll see.
Well, relative is relative to anyway.
Okay, so the chemdes halev, and also not just seichel, but also in the passion of the heart. You say chemdes passion, desire of the heart. Okay.
Why does it desire? Why not just the heart?
Kaidem, huh?
Why is it not just the heart?
Right.
To see, look in Tanya, but Pashtus is talking. Yeah, it's talking about. I guess is the intensity of the heart. I'm not sure why. I have to look in Tanya. Does he say Chemdes 11 Tanya? I don't think so. I have to look it up, but that's a good question. So we're talking about the letters of thought and speech, as they are in the mind or in the heart. I guess because the heart is not just talking about the heart, he's talking about some expression from the heart. He could have said Midas Halev, but he says Chemdes Halev. Before he thinks and begins to contemplate. Remember, he said before Hirur is connected to Dibur. So I guess that's the difference between Mechashav and Mahar. Remember in chapter Reish Sadik, he said Hirur.
There has to be a
He said Kedibur Dami.
So the idea of
Hirur she has already Kedibur Dami. Okay, that's already. In other words, how it's
emphasized. There has to be a Zulus. You know that.
that has connected already to letters. What he says there is that it's connected to letters of speech already. Yeah, that you already sense the letters. Okay. So what's the story here? Like this. So that's before you begin. So we're talking about letters, like you spoke earlier. Letters that are inside the thought process or the feelings before they are expressed. Actually, you could say mechashiv. Maybe that's why he says chemdes halev. Mechashiv is thought in the mind. Hirur halev. When you have, let's say, you you have a desire or a taiva. So that's also a thought, but it's a thought of it's coming from your the passions of desires of the heart. Maybe that's what he means here, Mahar. Shahaz, because we say Hirhuri Aveda is coming from the lev, not from the mind. Nefesh Habamis. So it's probably that's what he means. Chashuv and Mahar. Yeah, but the truth is, earlier, as I said, in Pnei V'Sadik, he did say Hirur is the second level of Machshav. It's hard to ignore the connection because he's talking about two levels of thought. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here we go. They're only in the potential of the heart. And they're united there in the ultimate unity. So they're not yet expressed, they're just within the heart's desire. There is some shape or form.
It's funny because here it has, it says colorful before it's Henderson. And it just seems to be.
Chemda is desire, chayach is a potential.
It's not potential. And
Chemda is koyach.
Also chayach, yeah. I mean, chemda is both levels. There's chemda when you act on it. Okay. We'll move on. Shazel habitl. Let's finish the. We'll move on, and it's understood. Shazel habitl vayichud dekelim desesfir shem b'chinas mitzias davar dugmas esis hamachshav v'adibur. And it's understood that this is the bitl of the kelim, of the containers of the 10 spheres. They're mitzias davar. They have an identity. They have a personality. Dugmas esis hamachshav v'adibur. So they're like the letters of thought and speech. But when they're encompassed and united with the energy, their ultimate unity, and you don't have any real substance. You have mitzias, but not mitzias dover. Yeah, because the Perek Chavalf included a lot, right? So they don't have yet substance, but they're there. I mean, it's very similar to what we've learned. It's just in different aces, a little Antanya. V'zeh b'chinas primis hakelim she'enu b'chinas pa'ula adayin. Pa'ula. This is the inner containers. They're not yet functioning. They're not in their functional mode. They're in their descriptive mode. This is what they are. So pa'ula would be once the letters go outside of when you're already expressing it. Shazel kamei l'moshel. This is giving an example. This is like an example. That somebody, arouses. Nefelas means to fall, but it means like, what do we say? Nefelas. How would you translate nefelas? Like when it comes to you, something like just
It didn't come to mind.
falls into you.
Yeah.
It wasn't
But
thinking
it's not
about
really
it.
fall.
It's- it's
Arouses.
fighting
It's
show.
arouses really.
That's it. Before
The word is
the-
arouses. When any love or desire arouses within a person's heart, before the desire travels upward from the heart to the mind. What's the example for this above? This is referring to the inner dimension of the keli.
Emotion.
Because the outer container, which is its purpose is function, is to affect something, is to impact something, is to affect something. Let's say what's cheshuv mahara? I thought we're
Well,
talking.
he uses Mahara.
What's that?
Confusion, right?
Oh, hold on.
But he's really.
No, but but until now he didn't think.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's a lev. That's why he's using chemdes halev. Okay, I got it. He's not talking now an idea, like he spoke earlier. An idea that first you have the idea in your mind, it has letters but you don't sense them, and then you think how you're going to speak to someone. He's talking now about heart desire before it becomes part of your mind and your intellectual process. In other words, you're not really thinking about it yet. You just have desire. Yeah. No, 1 second. But the question is, can you have a desire without thinking about it? How do you even know you have a desire? It didn't travel to your mind. Listen, it travels so.
You have a will without thinking. It's also a head thing.
Sure you can.
Hold on.
If you smell-
No.
If you smell
1 second.
barbecue
Look,
cooking, you
But then your mind is already perceiving that. That's your mind is.
ask right afterwards, but first you smell it and first you have the desire, then you perceive it.
Okay, no, I understand that. So that's what he's talking about. That split second.
That's what it is.
Okay, because you know something. For example, before we talked about ideas and machshava, you have ideas in your mind even before there's machshava, even before there's conscious thought. But those ideas in the mind are completely unconscious at that point. When we're talking about machshava, we're talking about conscious thought. So is there such a thing as a conscious desire without? Okay, no, I'm trying to analyze it. So in other words, it's a split second before you become conscious of it, because it is. You're right. It is two steps. You see something, you desire it. You smell something, you desire whatever. We're not talking about.
Then you think about it.
Isn't the language in Tanya that the first?
But it has to be. It cannot be. We're not talking about a machshava zara that the desire comes from your thought.
Good example.
Right.
So-
You need to have something that's a desire that's from, like you said, a barbecue.
But isn't the language in Tanya that after it's in the hemdes and then it goes up to the mind?
Yeah.
The continuation of the statement is how to acquire it.
Yeah, but here he's speaking that second before it goes to the
How about
mind.
Bina Libo? Bohalev Nevin. It's sechel, and it's.
Yeah, but there's a thing called
before it's mashava.
In other words, it started out
Intuition.
in the mind, it comes into the heart.
I can tell you the truth. In machshava, there's two steps. The truth is, there's machshava. There's no such thing as a conscious experience without thought. But that's not thought. That's thought. It's just like the fact that you stub your toe. It's a split second. The toe was stubbed before you felt it, but it's so fast that you're right away feeling it. So the mind is the one that's feeling it. The nerve goes to the central nervous system that's sending you a message. But the difference is that that's not you can't call that machshava.
That's not.
You call that there's something that touched the nerve, and your thought is the processor of everything.
What about Bina Libo?
Depends how you define Bina Liba. Sometimes Bina Liba is intuition. Yeah, the lev is maven. You just sense things.
And before you match.
Yeah, okay, but he's giving this example. Fine. So okay, that chemda liba shel adnu kedem she'elam ma'alev al amech amud mezah primis hakeli k'mish kfar cheshuv ma'al. So see, it's like a whole different way of looking at it now. So in other words, the outer container is how the desire of the heart is already affecting you. So it's having an impact already. We're talking about something before it has impact. So its primis akeli would be, see, usually the desire without its conscious thought about it is
I don't think you say before impact, because what is chemda?
no,
Chemda is an impact.
but I said lifel. He used the word lifel. So impact means impact on your mind. Yeah. Well, proteus shleimer. How long does this parenthesis go?
Now it breaks it down.
Huh?
It's a nice piece.
Now it breaks it down even deeper.
And then all the way to the end.
No,
No, it's in the middle.
down here, you see?
Vima yes.
Why? Because
Ah.
primis akeli.
Okay, so when proteus shleimer, everything is of course broken down and dissected into pieces. So in more detail, you can say again yeshleimer. So it's a chiddush also. The primis akelim ukumal derech moshla esis aklulim be'etzem hamida. That intercontainer is the example of the letters as they are encompassed in the etzem of the midah, not even the chemda. In other words, he's going even deeper now. In the etzem hamida, in the essential field motion. Even before it aroused the desire. A love and a desire in the heart. Now Chukka, he says. Chukka before he said Chemda. So Chukka is also a yearning. Like an example, the Etzem Midas Hatev Shebelev, person has essentially a good heart. The midah of goodness in the heart. Good heart. Even when he's asleep, in other words. It's a midah. It's like what I said before with the idea is before you think. So it is going to be consistent.
Is this word hateva good or nature?
So to do a favor to someone, to do someone a good thing. So you have goodness in your heart even before you're actually doing good. Remember he spoke about this in the Shem HaTayar? He spoke about you could be a prodigy or a good person that's only Shem HaTayar, not Shem HaPula. Here he's going, that's where he's going. That you have this midah. This is primis akeli. It's consistent. Well, he says, like we learned in earlier, chapter 285, hey.
Yeah, excellent.
I didn't realize that. Like in the name of descriptive name, what is it referring to? It doesn't have yet necessarily the awakening of a goodness. Remember, he spoke about the potential, an infinite amount of potential. It's only it's in his power and his potential to awaken with any type of good or kindness. There's a good person, a person does good things.
He's a generous person.
Yeah, a generous heart, yes.
Before he's generous.
Before he's acting on it. So it's not just the desire before it reaches your mind and you're conscious of it. You're not talking how it is in the heart itself, in the emotion itself. See the interface again. It's so critical because he's like showing how every step has the ability to refine it to what God wants. I mean, this is just unbelievable because what he's doing is psychologically breaking down really how we process things. We have a heart that's good, then a desire arouses, then you act on it. Primis akeli, you know. And essentially, the goal, of course, is refining all this, that it should be b'tzelem and demus of what God wants, not what we want. So in other words, that's the beauty of Chassidus, is not just telling you be a good person, it's refining every step of Ishtalshlus within us and outside of us to be aligned to the purpose.
But this is
pretty
now, right?
Demanding.
It's a big gift to be able to be learning this.
It's also demand. It's instructive. Also, it's telling you how.
Yeah, and absolutely. But when you become aware that you have all these levels, like who thinks about this? You have a desire. How many of us have dissected our desire? By the time you dissect it, you already made the mistakes.
So in that level of the innate nature of a Jew, it says Avram, we inherit a good heart, chesed, chesed.
Yeah.
So you're saying this innate good heart. What level did you say?
It's calling primis hakeli here now. Primis
That's
hakeli.
primis hakeli?
Basically.
Yeah, because it's not energy. Energy doesn't have such identity. This is an identity array. It's a personality type. Oyer is elikus, revealed, expressed. We learned that earlier and later that Oyer also has a tzir. Yeah, but this is primarily the primis hakelim of Atzilus. When primis hakelim of Atzilus are not inanimate static forces, these are powerful. He's talking about primis hakelim. That's what he's defining.
Where would Or fit in over here when we're talking about primis hakelim?
Without Oyer, there's no life. Air is that gives the energy.
So it precedes the Pnimis Akeli.
Yeah. V'hainu rak ma shemesugol l'seir mitzad etzem ha'teva kli,
Exactly.
which means that mesugol,
That means a fire
that he's
cannot burn-
capable of.
A fire cannot burn on steel. It has to have a.
Yeah.
It has to have a cable.
V'hainu rak ma shemesugol l'seir mitzad etzem ha'tev ha'kli.
That's what it is.
You know what? I'll tell you what it would be. This is a good question you asked, Eliezer. You want to know what I would say? Every Jew, every human being, you could say, has midas hachesed in their lev. But if it's only air and no keli, that's the difference between, let's say, some families have good genes. They have a kindness in their personalities, not just kindness in their neshama. Some people don't have to work at it so hard. There are people who are just, you could see, some people in families are very stingy or very.
Actually kind, yeah.
So there's a kind personality is kalim for sure. The neshama has chesed. Everybody has that. For some people, you have to work harder because you don't have the kalim. It would be like a mind. Some people simply have better minds. They're born with a better mind. The keli is more. That's a keli thing. It's still potent. It's still primis akeli because until you act on it, it's not konsenis akeli, but it's primis akeli. So their mind is a prodigious mind. Now, of course, there are people we talked about. There's some people who, with yigiyah, with effort, can achieve more than those that just to be a prodigy. You don't work at it, doesn't go anywhere. So that's the thing. So Oyer would be the chesed that everybody has in Shama. I mean, relatively speaking, you could say that's also part of. Keli would be that you're actually shaped that way. Your personality is shaped has a chesed that's a dominant feature in your personality. I mean, same thing would be even physically. We're all born with a body. Some people have a shape and form that is aligned to a certain, charisma or look or etc. Okay, so it's mesugol l'yisayim mitzad etzem ha'tev kli. So the kli itself is just a primis in the primis kli is a good keli, is goodness. This is the inner container. And when there's aroused love and desire, he's breaking it down. This is a breakdown in protis. You could say that's like the awakening, a general awakening lahetiv, to do something good. You don't yet have a specific goodness. So it's 3 levels basically. You don't yet have letters. You have just a general awakening. A pshuta would be like a what do we call? What would you say pshuta was like seamless, without shape and form, not simple, as in without
Undifferentiated.
right, undifferentiated, right, without definition,
Pure.
pure. And this is the example of the letters as they are included in the desire in the heart. Which is the example? The second level, right?
Yeah.
The Seir is kloli.
Right.
Here's the subplot. There's Psois HaKelim keep coming up. Remember before? This is the middle containers. Remember we spoke, there's the inner, outer, and middle? So in the previous chapters he said middle he referred to very, very vaguely.
Right.
Here he's going stronger. Okay. So we have 3 levels. The inner container now, in this parentheses, is the Primis HaKeli is the goodness of the heart before anything. You're not even aware of it. Then there's becoming aware of it, and there's a certain general awakening. I want to do something good, but you haven't yet spelled out to specifically figure out how, what, to whom.
That's the middle.
That's the middle. And when it awakens and arouses any specific goodness, and it's still not actually doing it. We're still talking here. Yeah, and it's and now you're already thinking how you're going to do it. That's the outer container. But you have to say in general, the primi and the emtsa, the first 2, are united.
One of the 3.
I guess the third is already preparing to go outward, outside.
After Susa.
Yeah, something like that. So 1 second. How does this apply in the previous chapter? So he's adding a 3rd level here. So
The middle, right?
if you remember, before there were 2 levels. There was machshava as you think to yourself. There's machshava how you're prepared to communicate, in letters. Now he's added a 3rd letter, middle level in between the 2. So just to show you the interface is now He got in a little more detail, and here he's added the level where there's a Seidos Klali. So it's conscious, but it's not specific, basically.
Is this because there's a difference in the function of the heart and the function of the mind that he seems to be changing?
I don't necessarily think so, because you could say the three things in the mind also. You have an idea.
Yes.
A person is a mind. Like in the Shema Teir, he explained it both in the mind and the heart.
But you don't have his Seidos Klali in the mind.
Why not? You could have a Seidos Klali in the mind.
How would you
It's not Seidos Klali. You could have. You have an idea. I'm sorry. You have a brain that has ideas. It's the first level. One second. A good mind, like he said, even when you're asleep.
Good mind, good heart.
Good mind, good heart. Prodigy type, like he said, and potential to think and conceive all kinds of ideas. Then you come up with a general concept. I mean, you could have that, a general concept that has not been broken down. You know, a brainstorm. I don't know. You get some idea. I mean, he doesn't say it. It's interesting why he doesn't say that, even though he was using seichel before. He's using midas here. I'm not sure why, but you probably could apply it to say. I see no reason why you can't apply the same idea. Remember, in Meichen you also have primus kutzenis and Tzayis Kale. So you have to say there's three levels there.
Define them a little differently. We talk about deeper and thoughts.
I mean, you're asking a question why he's using it. I think they're both applicable. I'm not really positive why. Okay.
But isn't this the Rebbe right here changing the whole paradigm?
No,
Because the whole time we've been
He's
talking
adding, he's stretching it out a little.
You've been talking so much about Hitzonis and Panim Sekalim the whole time.
So this is a parenthesis, but remember.
Now all of a sudden he's saying there's really a Rosh, Toch, and so.
He said it earlier
Three
too.
levels.
There's always an interface with everything.
Hold on.
Everything has
No,
an
I'll tell you why.
interface.
Because
Think about it.
remember, there's a hemshel that's developing, and he does this constantly. There's always adding. Remember, I mentioned in the last paragraph Tzaddik, he says that in Reish Pei Hey, he had said there's three, and there's no three in the Reish Pei Hey. You weren't here when I said it. I looked, there's only two, but he says here I discussed earlier three. So clearly, as the hemshel developed, he's breaking it down. I mean, that's going to happen. That's going to happen all the time. You can't say everything on one page. Remember, it's one hemshech.
Yeah, but it's a fundamental change in the paradigm.
No, I wouldn't say it's a change at all. It's only adding another piece. There's another piece that connects the interface a little deeper. Trust me, that you go further, you're gonna probably find another 5 right in there too. I don't see how. I can't imagine how, but trust me, the Rebbe Rashab is gonna come up with
something. I'm trying to understand how these two relate together each other.
So he just said, 1 second. He's identifying. He said that's why primis v'emtsoyis are generally one. He really breaks down primis and tzoyis are really united as one. So that's why generally you can speak about primis and konsenis, but protis you speak. He's saying protis yesh shleimer. He says in the parentheses. Okay, let's go back.
You can argue that the Emsois is also connected with the Xonius as one too. I mean, it's like as any interface.
But he's here clearly making it stronger. It's connected stronger with the primis.
Still another yesh shleimer.
V'im hayesh. Now after the parentheses, v'im hayesh the b'sefer. So okay, so we established in the parentheses these three, but basically we're talking about an outer and an inner. The outer being either as it rises in your thoughts, that's for sure the outer. The inner, is it the desire or is it the potential of the desire, basically?
In your thoughts, you can break it down to two. The way you're thinking about speaking to somebody else, or you're thinking to yourself.
V'im hayesh the b'sefer shel beinim sham. And even though in Tanya there. Sefer Shel Beinim. By the way, the real official name of Tanya is Sefer Shel Beinim, right? The Sharblat. Tanya is just the first word of the Sefer. The Rebbe has in the back of Tanya is all the places why the names, who gave which name.
Yeah, who gave Sefer Shel Beinim?
The Sefer Shel Beinim, the Alter Rebbe wrote in the Sharblat. That's the Alter Rebbe's official name. That's why the official name is Sefer Shel Beinim. Tanya, the Alter Rebbe also used Tanya at Tzemach Tzedek, so Tanya is not just from Chassidim. But Sefer Shel Beinim is the Rebbe has in the back of Tanya. He brings all the different names that Tanya. There's other names. Tanya Chelik Aleph, for example, Sefer Shel Beinim. Sometimes Tanya is all Likutei Amorim. The Rebbe has the different. It's like a whole list of the different titles. Back of Tanya.
And he explains why.
Yeah. I don't know if he explains it, but he brings a little explanation maybe. There are a lot of interesting things in the back of Tanya about all the like Tanya. Sometimes the Kuntur Sachron of Tanya, for example. In some prints are actually numbered. In ours, it's not. Ageres HaKodesh is numbered, the 4th section, and the Rebbe brings there a bunch of that Kuntur Sachron, which editions have it numbered. Shayuch and Vamuna, for example, had at the end chassid, that the Alter Rebbe never finished it. But in Tanya it doesn't say that. Anas Rashel, the Alter Rebbe's chassid, writes about the that it said chassid in the early editions. It said missing because he never finished. I mean, I'm giving examples, all kinds of interesting tidbits about Tanya. The ime yezim shever shalbeinim there, and even though in Tanya there, mevayer the gam kamosh hadibur, the mevayer the gam kamosh hadibur yetzel apel arihu miyuchad. So he just established that the real. Remember talking about yichud elah. The real unity is what? Is the way the letters are before they come expressed in speech. He's asking, but in Tanya there he says that even the way it's expressed, yetzel apel, even in Chetzenius HaKelim, in other words, it's miyuchad and united. You see, that's why the parentheses, that's why primis and tzois is so relevant. Because Chetzenius HaKeli in the parentheses is not miyuchad. You see? And now we say that, so now that's why the question applies. So the dibur outside, that's not, the Tanya says that's also miyuchad. So he's answering, zeu b'diyosei yizbarach. That's only in God's perception, in perspective. From God's perspective, even when the dibur comes out, even when he's saying Yehi Oyer, Yehi Rakia, even when God is speaking already and is creating an external world, because there's no concealment and no tzimtzum, from his perspective, he sees the unity. The same thing is also true with the creations. And the truth is, this is also so by the creatures. They're also completely bottled, but that's how God sees it all. Remember, Tanya is going to say that if we opened our eyes, we wouldn't be able to exist. But from God's perspective, that's what it means in Evrem Gamken, like the Dibur. As from God's perspective, it's all united. We're talking about from our perspective. Nevertheless, the Nevraim, the creatures on their own, as we are from our perspective, it's only the lower Yechud, it's only the lower unity. So in other words, from God's perspective, basically Yechud Elah is on all levels. Primis Kelim, Chetzenis HaKelim. On our perspective, from our perspective, there's a difference. Primis HaKelim sense that L'mayl is Yesh and L'mat is Ayin, the complete bittul, and Chetzenis HaKeli only senses Chidlusenu that we exist, but we're bottled to Elokus, to divine, to the divine. Aber b'chinas HaKeli l'mayla shenemesh HaKeli b'chinas bittul dichud lo zeh b'chinas primis HaKeli. When you talk about the kelim, the containers above, shenemar shakelim b'chinas bittul dichud lo zeh b'chinas primis HaKeli. But when you talk about the kelim above, and the containers are bittul, not talking about mitzad atzmos, mitzad elokus, mitzad the containers. And you say they're bittul, that yichud ilah is only in the level of the inner containers, or also in the middle container that he described in the parentheses. The one that desire arises, but it's only in general. Because they're encompassed in the energy and they're not yet a separate mitzias, like the letters of the thought or of the desire.
And that's the Alter Rebbe's Yehuda 11 Tanya, is the middle level.
The middle. Well, or the inner, yeah. And in this context, the container is similar. Mizdama is parallels, and I guess what's the word? Mirrors the energy. Because the energy in Atzilus is in general is Dovik, is an energy that is cleaved to, that is attached to its source, and that bittul is the bittul of the higher unity. And the inner container, which is also the level of the bittul of the inner of the higher unity, it mirrors this level of energy.
So it's the same thing. So right away, Baban.
One second. Nevertheless, you can't say it's one. It's just similar. Mizdama. Remember, we said it's an image of that bittul. Actually, no. We're talking Salmenu. Sorry. No, correct that. Nevertheless, even there, it's only tzelem. It's not really actual the same thing. There's no. They're not similar. They're not similar. Because the energy is attached to the source, and its bittul, its selflessness, is because it feels and senses and within it, it feels within it. It's felt the source. We learned this in the 3 levels of air earlier, and he senses how he, God, is alone. And there's nothing else. The kulei kamei kalachashem. Everything is nullified compared to him. The bittul zelk b'cholos ba'er. This bittul is in general in the energy. Mashenken bittul de kelim. However, the bittul of kelim, even previous kelim, hu b'chinas iskalus levad. It's only encompassed in it all. It's letters that are encompassed and completely subjugated to the desire in the heart, but it's letters already. Or the other interpretation or the deeper interpretation that it's the desire itself, but it's still
Very subtle difference.
no. Actually, it has to be letters now.
Yeah,
Because
they're
because
not the front letters.
yeah, because they're no. But he wants to say the letters. They're scaleless, but they're not one. 1 second. Oh, it is Asius Haklum. It's also Asius. Fine. Either way, they're both interpretations. Look, let's look later what he says. Look at what I say later. What it says later in Vayigash Alav. That's the next volume. Okay, so we have the answer to that. Okay, so it's Asius Haklum. So the difference would be basically. Going back to the idea, Oyer is always seamless. It's always pashut. It always doesn't have an identity. Period.
No,
It's the energy of the idea or energy of the desire. Energy, pure energy.
We learned before that the or makes itself builds an interface to the kalim. It's like like you want to.
Yeah, but it's still
it's a hand substance to go into the gloves. So it's not
but it still remains always its personality is not its own. It doesn't have an identity. Its identity is just expressing the divine light. Keli has an identity, Chachma Bina. That's essentially the point. So therefore, it's already Asius.
But there is a difference between.
We're talking about the difference in Aaron and Keli now.
The difference in or and or.
But we're talking the difference in Aaron and Keli. That's
okay,
what
relative to Keli, it's always the.
But it's not just relative; it's a different entity. Air is not Keli.
Okay,
Keli is not Air.
that's for sure, but it still makes its fingers.
Okay, but he's talking now about the difference. We just said that Keli has its similarities, but the Kelim are the Oisius.
The previous Akeli, which is
Yeah.
so similar to the other.
Yeah, because they're Oisius. He says he's calling it Iskalus, not Isachlus. That the letters are completely encompassed in the desire before they become shape and form that will go outside.
They're still letters. That's what
They're still letters, they're not pure desire. They're not pure energy. It's like what I said before. You could be born, every neshama has chesed in it, but not necessarily your personality. Chesed is your personality. That requires that the keli should also be shaped in that form. Okay. Hagam is Barleil Pedek Reish Beit Beis. Even though we discussed earlier in chapter 282, the Ikra Bittul Dasa Hu B'Chachma. Another question. We learned before that the Ikra primary Bittul of Das Elyon of the higher perspective, divine perception, is in Chachma Dain B'Chinas Ha'er Kameshu L'Maylam B'Chinas Ha'Kelim. As we said, Chachma is Atzilus in Atzilus. It's air that's higher than containers. So now we're saying here that the containers have Yechudei Ilah, similar to the air. You said earlier that Chachma is the one.
That makes sense, though.
Right.
Really, that makes sense.
Mashenka b'bina shazel b'derech klal ha'er ha'mislabish b'kelim. However, in bina, which is already how the air manifests in kelim and
That's why it's a
asaga.
mamutza. That's really why it's a mamutza.
Of course. How is that b'chinas das tach?
Yeah.
Look, he's tying it all together.
Yeah.
So we learned earlier that Bina is Das Tachlis, the lower perspective, which is Yichud Tata, not Yichud Ilah. And here we're saying that Bina, Primis HaKelim, like we learned in the previous paragraph, remember, Bria in Atzilus. Bria is where the seal is. That is the level of Das Elyon. That's what we're saying here. She's answering now. The answer to that is Hinu Zehu L'fi Amitis HaInyan. That's Amitis HaInyan. That's in the true perspective. In the real picture of things, that's how it is. That Chachma is Yichud Ilah, and Bina is Yichud Tata. That De'al Yena Amitis, that the true perspective is what? Ech Shalamayli Yesh, how above is reality, Ulamata Ayin, and below is nothingness. Zeo Dafku Primis Avatzmis Ein Sof. This level, you're going to like this, is in the Primis and Atzmis of Ein Sof, the Ein Bechinis Primis HaKesa.
Yeah, exactly.
So Ein Bechinis Mokel and Etzolim Klal.
That's why it's come with some more.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. That's why he's tying it all together.
Yeah.
But remember, the interface has to have elements of that, right? It has to.
It's always like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So what we learned earlier is, in general, that's the picture. That the real Yichud Ilah, if you really want to experience the divine, complete divinity, is in Chachma, or it says here, is in Atzmi Primis, which is a level of Primis HaKeser, the inner dimension of Keser. She'ein b'chinas mokel and etzolim klal. That's not even a source to the emanations. The problem, of course, there is that then you're missing. You want to have then we're back to square one. That dimension of the divine we never experienced. That's why he needs to bring it down now into Primis HaKelim, that we can experience also here down below this level. And the Chetzenius HaKeser li'yeshazel mokel and etzolim. But he's still talking now how it's in the big picture. But Chetzenius HaKeser, the outer dimension of Keser, the way it's a source for the emanations, the creatures, the emanations are teifus mokim. They're not null and void. They have place, they have space. How do you say teifus mokim? They occupy space, they have value. They're valued. Compared to the Chetzenius HaKeser, can't say they don't exist. Primis HaKeser, you could say, is beyond source of as if they don't exist. On this level, it does exist. That's why on this level, their knowledge, the knowledge of the emanations, that they feel their source, which is Chetzenius HaKeser, the outer Keser, does not cause a bittul that they completely become annihilated, they completely become overwhelmed, they completely become disappear. It does not cause a bittul, a nullification of their entire existence. Because their existence, their identity and personality occupy space, has value even in the source. Because it's a level that's considered a source for it. So you can't say that their bittul is as if they don't exist. Because they do exist. They have value in the source. The only thing is, they're bittul. They're subjugated to the source. They know the source is greater than them. And they come from it. So they are completely subjugated to it. But to say as if they don't exist, you can't say. So it's only Yichud Tata, not Yichud Ilah. That's not, by the way, what he's explaining here. That's what we explained earlier. That only Chachma, that's higher than Kalim, has Yichud Ilah. That's the day Amitis. Amitis Inyan, as he says. He's still going on with this. And like an example, like the Ayin of the Yesh of Nivrayim. So you know there's, like, for example, we say there's Yesh, and Ayin Be'emsa, right? There's an itness, and a nothingness in between. But then the ayin divides into two. There's the ayin of the yesh amiti, and there's the ayin of the yesh anivra. So really you have four levels. You have, let's say, the etzem, the source. You have the creatures. So it's two yesh. I mean, from above this is ayin, and from below that's ayin. But in reality there's a two yesh. For them to, for how it transmits, is there's first an ayin, that the etzem has to be concealed. So that's called the ayin of the yesh amiti. Then there's another level of ayin, which becomes a source for the creation, for the final yesh, but they're already relatively closer.
It's a continuum of two separate things.
It's one ayin that breaks into two. Those two ayins understand each other.
It's not a continuum
I mean, continuum as in
two separate things.
No. Usually it's like the Tzimtzum Arishon is the first ayin. It's two steps in one process. I mean, I don't know what you mean by two things. It's ayin.
If you say two steps, it's two steps. If it's gradually getting eshes as it comes in.
My recollection is that it's two steps, and maybe also whether the first ayin becomes the second ayin, is something like that sometimes. So when you say, for example, primis hakeser, chetzenis hakeser, so you're going to say primis hakeser is the ayin of the yesh amiti, chetzenis hakeser is the ayin of the yesh anivra. Yeah. One is a source to the creation, to the emanations, and one is not.
Between them is chachma tzemah, is chachma tzemah.
Right.
And it goes changes as it must be a continuum. I don't know.
Okay. Anyway, the reason he's saying Obedugnu is because remember he was talking about is a key distinction a lot of people don't always notice. Sometimes you talk about Netzolim, sometimes you talk about Nevraim. Atzilus cannot be called a creation; it's called an emanation because it's like a separation from the source. Bria Nivra is called creation. So what he's saying here is he's spoken primarily Atzilus here. That Keser, the outer Keser, is a source for the emanations, Sheirish and Tzalim. The inner Keser, Primis HaKeser, is not even a source. Then he says, Ubedugmuz is the same thing with Yesh HaNivroim. On a lower level, the same idea. That there's the Yesh Ayin of the Yesh HaNivroim is like Chetzenis HaKeser, the Gaba Atzilus. So he's saying like this, even though it's nothingness, it still has a connection, a relationship with the yesh. Because it's being that it's a source to the yesh. That means the yesh has some space, has some value, even from the perspective of the ayin. And therefore, in the perspective and perception of creatures, of nivroim that sense the ayin aliki, the nothingness, or the divine force that creates them. So even when the nivroim we sense that we were put here, but we don't sense we completely don't exist. We exist. However, we are subjugated to the master, so to speak.
We have an eighth of an eighth.
Yeah.
Which is this year, Shemini is 8 times that I've always
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. So they sense it, therefore it's yesh, it's called bitla yesh, not bitl mitziz. This is yichud etata. Val derech zeh ba netzolim gamken. You see, he brings it back now. Al derech zeh is also netzolim on the higher level of Atzilus, that compared to outer keser, the level of netzolim, the emanations, are bottle, they're subjugated, but they're not non-existent. They exist bitl. It's their bitl hayesh to the source. And the true level of complete nullification, complete total annihilation in a good way, total bitl, total nullification, total suspension, is the level of das that is in the middle. The middle path, the middle, what do you call it? The middle rod that goes right into Primis HaKeser. She'ena beget the Mokar Klal HaNatzolim. That's not even, you can't even consider it as a source. It's not even a source to the emanations. Ve'ena Tov Simokim Klal. Ve'ena Tov Simokim Klal. And they completely have no value there. The B'chinis Yediyah V'hergish Zeh B'Natzolim. And this knowledge, and this sensation and feeling in the emanations causes them to be completely nullified, because they realize that source of the divine is not even a source for me. I don't even have value in what I am. It's not like I'm only less than it. Even what I am doesn't exist. Even my value doesn't have value. It's not like number 1 is bottled to infinity. So 1, 2, 3, 4, but 1 at least is in the set of numbers. Infinity recognizes that 1 is a number. Here we're talking about you're not even a number. Even the word number doesn't have value.
Is that higher than Chachma?
Well, Chachma, in Chachma you sense this level. He called that Chachma before. Now he's already talking Primis HaKesser, which is Das. One second. The B'chinas Yediyah v'Hergez Ebenson Esem B'chinas Bittul Mitzvahs L'Gayim. When you sense that level doesn't even have, it's not even a source for you. It doesn't need you, doesn't have any connection to you. That creates total suspension, total bittul. Okay, this is all one big question and answer. Remember, this is what he said earlier. Amitis Inyan. Where is really the Yichud Law? In Chachma. Or deeper in Primis HaKesser, which radiates in Das. And what we have on our level, anything lower in Bina, is Yichud Tatar already. Because we're already connected to our related, it's only a bittul relative to the source that recognizes you, and recognizes your value. Nevertheless, even though in the whole picture it's Primis HaKesser, all of Atzilus is senses, the general bittul of Atzilus is a bittul of Kol HaChashuv, that there's nothing, no value. She'en b'chinas mitzias, gam b'chinas das tachen the Atzilus. The Hainu idea of Hergez b'chinas sheirish u'makon and solim. I'll explain that in a minute. She'en b'chinas mitzias, that it completely doesn't exist. Even the das tachten of Atzilus, even the Bina, even the Primis HaKelim, not just the Eir, also has within it the sense, even that level, in other words, that connected to the source of the emanations, which means you have value, even there's an element of complete bittul. He's not explaining it right here. He's just really answering the question. Essentially, the bottom line is like this. In the interface, Atzilus is closer to the bittul, the Mitzias, than Bria is. That's the bottom line. But when you break it down, obviously the real interface is on the level of Chachmas Timah and Primis HaKesser. But remember, he later explained how Chachmas Timah comes into Chachma Gluya. And that's where it really plays itself out. In this whole part of the Hemshech, he's bringing the interface into the world of Kalim. That's why, and he's explaining it. Even in Kalim, Primis HaKelim have that further. But at the end of the day, Primis HaKelim are still Asius. Let's not forget, they still have identity. They're still Kalim.
The Chachma doesn't change world to world. He said it before. That's an amazing thing. If you think about it, that Chachma is in every different world.
Well, Chachma de Bria is definitely lower than Chachma Batzilus.
I'm not sure he said. It seems like that it's a pure Chachma in every world.
No. Chachma de Bria, Chachma de Asiya, Chachma goes through Ma'av Tzimtzumim. It always retains, remember, all levels retain their essential personality, but they go through diminished.
He said something about Chachma as being special in each world.
No, Chachma in that world is special. But the Chachma de Atzilus, Chachma de Bria compared to Chachma de Bria compared to the Bina de Bria is like Atzilus compared to Bria. That's the point. Chachma always retains a certain measure of bittul. Even Chachma Gashmis by us is a sense of awe, a sense of, you sense there's something beyond us. So Chachma always retains. Yeah, right, exactly.
Whereas Midas Emes Bria Chatichon, which runs through everything straight from the lowest to the top.
The Bria Chatichon is the middle path, which is Malchus, Yesod, Das, Primis HaKesser. Here he's talking only the part of Das and Primis HaKesser. We're not talking here about Tiferes. I'm sorry, Tiferes as well. Tiferes, Yesod, and Malchus. So here he referred to Primis HaKesser and Das. So when the spheres are structured like a human being, right, left, and center, so you have Primis HaKesser is the crown. If you go down that line, you have Kesser, Das, Tiferes, Yesod, Malchus. The right would be Chochma, Chesed, Netzach. The left would be Bina, Gvura, Hoid, the left arm. That's the structure. But the middle, Bria Chatichon, like in the Mishkan, there was that one rod that connected all the walls. All the walls were connected with small brick. They had the small rods that connected one wall, but one that, like the spine. It's essentially the spine. The spine is the connector from Mavriach bin HaKotze el HaKotze. That's, in this context, it's Primis HaKesser all the way to Malchus. But practically speaking, Das and Kesser. That's why you have sometimes it says you count Das, you don't count Kesser. You count Kesser, you don't count Das. If you count from the Chitzenius, you count Kesser, because Kesser is the beginning of the source of the emanations. When you count from Primis, you don't count Kesser, because Primis and Kesser is not part of the spheres. You count Das then. Right. That's the point. That's right. So here's the Kitzur. Okay. V'hinei, Mitzalmenu yichudi lo k'musenu yichudi tato. Salmenu, as we discussed in the previous one. Remember, it all is consistent with everything we talked about. Remember, we said Salmenu in the beginning is energy, is so that stems completely with yichudi lo. The question was, how has it become Mekalim? But Mekalim now he's also establishing this Salmenu. And then he's explained that Salmenu and Musenu is even how it affects Biyah.
So, but a human being can never achieve Yichud Ilah, right? I mean, based on this.
What means achieve? We can sense that you definitely can. Look, there's a question whether having a sense of it. He says you could have a sense of it. With Asad Lovi, for sure we could. Today, it's more of a sense. In other words, we can understand the level where we completely, we have no value at all. I mean, that's complete bittul. When you feel existence has absolutely, it's like the person, like
we can understand.
a Mordechai, the people who had Mesiras Nefesh, the world was completely not taken for smoke. Nothing matters. You're now with God alone. And then there's a level where, in your existence, you find other course. I mean, it's examples of it. Really, Yichud Ilah, a Rebbe has. And also not all the time, but difference. A Rebbe also has a difference in Shabbos and weekdays, or when he's in the state. There's different states. It's all relative ultimately. Like he said, a mitis ha'inyan bittul of Yichud Ilah is primis hakesed. So Taki Yom Kippur Yechida is primis hakesed. So Yom Kippur Yechida, when the Ilah you have that level is revealed. Can you maintain it to Nach Hashem? So anyway, ubihini tzalmenu Yichud Ilah k'musei Yichud Ilah. The Besefer shel beim mavur inyan Yichud Ilah kama esis machshava dibur. And Tanya explains that Yichud Ilah is like the letters in thought and speech. But Eidem b'koyach sichlei that are still. It probably says Chemdes 11 Tanya. That's that I see. As it is in the power of the mind, the Chemdes 11 desire in the heart. Koydem shemachashav, before he thinks about it. The example of this is in the level of the containers. That's not what it says in Tanya. For who? The primis hakel. This is the inner containers. This is the letters as they're encompassed in the essence of the seichel. V'amida she'enim nikoim. It doesn't say chemda. V'amida. It doesn't say be'etzem ha'seichel the chemda. I'm wondering whether hamida and chemda. It's just because the hey and the ches. No, I don't think so. But
Hamida is a different level of color.
he said hamida. Yeah, she'enim nikoim. There, the letters are not recognizable, distinguishable. It is the parentheses. Primis hakel kedem yiseidus. The primis hakel inner containers even before there's an actual awakening. It's just a general sense of the yiseidus kloli emtsoyes hakeli, and the general awakening of doing, let's say, good is the middle container, middle dimension of the container. Yiseidus prati chutzenis hakeli, and the specific awakening is the outer container. Nevertheless, you can't compare it to the Yichud Ilah of Eir. You can't compare, even though the Primis HaKeli has that higher dimension of Yichud Ilah, you can't compare it to the Bittul of energy, where the feeling is, the sense is that there's nothing but Him. Even though we explained them in this level, Bina is das Tachten, Zeh ba mitis ha'inyan. That's in the truth of it all. Because in Bina, there's a feeling of the sense of the source, and that's where they have value. They occupy space. Like Das Tachten that senses the divine energy. Yet nevertheless, also in Atzilus, there's a sense of this type of bittul of everything is kala, like nothing. Right? Huh? 1 second. So we'll stop here, page Reish Tzadik Beis, 292, page 592.
It's Reish Tzadik Gimel.
The end of Reish Tzadik Beis, yeah. We're up to Reish Tzadik Gimel. Yes. Okay.
Very nice. Next